What happens when the life you built falls apart at the exact moment you're bringing a new one into the world? For Erin Sterling, her luxury, penthouse, high society life and picture-perfect marriage were about to shatter. She wasn't at a gala. She wasn't on a yacht. She was in a cold hospital bed, a high-risk pregnancy, threatening her and her baby. And that's when she saw it. Not a get-well-soon card from her husband, but a TMZ alert, a grainy photo. Her husband, his lips on a celebrity. And the real nightmare was just beginning. The penthouse at 157 wasn't just a home. It was a fortress of glass and steel suspended 80 floors above Manhattan. From here, Erin Sterling could look down on Central Park, a perfect green rectangle that looked from this height as tidy and controlled as her life was supposed to be. Erin had been an art curator, known for her sharp eye and her ability to spot the next big thing. That's how she'd met Damian Sterling. He wasn't an artist. He was the buyer. The CEO of Sterling Innovations, a tech conglomerate so vast its tentacles reached into biotech AI and private aerospace. He was handsome, ruthless in business, and devastatingly charming. He'd collected her, she sometimes thought, just as he collected rare art and faster jets. Now at 32, Erin was 36 weeks pregnant with their first child, a boy. And she had never felt more alone. The silence in the penthouse was a physical weight. Damian was working. He was always working. The last 3 months had seen him transform from an attentive, if busy husband into a ghost who smelled faintly of a perfume that wasn't hers. A scent she'd clocked as the wildly expensive Baccarat Rouge 540, a fragrance too cloying for her own tastes. "It's just stress, Erin," he'd murmured, kissing her forehead before the Vanity Fair party last week. "The coup projections are brutal. I never see you," she'd whispered, her hand on the swell of her belly. "You'll see me all the time when the baby's here," he'd promised, adjusting the cuffs of his Tom Ford suit. "I'll take the whole month off. We'll fly to St. Bart's." But his eyes were already past her, focused on the elevator on the world outside. Tonight, the loneliness was mixed with a sharp, radiating pain in her lower back and a sudden alarming swelling in her ankles. Her feet looked like overstuffed sausages. She'd checked her blood pressure on the home cuff Dr. Lena Harding had insisted on. The numbers were terrifyingly high. She called Damian, straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Damian Sterling. Leave a message. I'll get back to you if it's important." "Damian, darling, it's me," she said, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. "I'm not feeling well. The swelling it's bad. Dr. Harding's service said I should be monitored. Please call me. Please." She waited 10 minutes. No reply. She called again. Voicemail. And again. Voicemail. A hot, sharp fear, entirely separate from the physical pain, lanced through her. He wasn't in a meeting. He'd turned his phone off. She grabbed her phone and opened the car service app. Her fingers shaking so badly, she misspelled New York Presbyterian. She couldn't wait. Wiping away a tear of frustration, she waddled to the elevator, a lone, pregnant woman in a silk pajama set, descending from her glass tower to find a cab on the hostile streets of Midtown. The driver, seeing her distress, ran 2 red lights. "You okay, lady?" "I just need to get to the hospital," Erin breathed, clutching her stomach as another wave of pain, sharp and acidic, crested. "Please hurry." She was admitted immediately. The bright, sterile triage room was a blur of activity. "Mrs. Sterling, your blood pressure is 170/110. You're in a hypertensive crisis. Preeclampsia, a young doctor said, his face grim. We need to get you on magnesium sulfate immediately to prevent a seizure, and we need to monitor the baby. They wheeled her to a private room in the maternity ward. As the cool, metallic-tasting magnesium drip entered her vein, Erin looked at the empty chair beside her bed. It was 9:00 p.m. Her husband, the father of her child, was unreachable. And as the drugs fogged her mind, a single terrifying thought pushed through. He's not in a meeting. He's with her, whoever she is. The next 12 hours were a medicated hell. The magnesium sulfate made Erin feel like she was breathing through a wet blanket. Her body was on fire, yet she shivered. Nurses came and went, their faces masks of professional concern, drawing blood, checking the fetal heart monitor, a steady rhythmic thump, thump, thump. That was her only anchor. Damien finally arrived at 10:00 a.m. He didn't burst in frantic with worry. He strolled in holding 2 cups of coffee and a designer pastry bag from Maison Kaiser. He looked immaculate in a grey Loro Piana zip-up, his hair perfectly coiffed. He looked like he'd just come from a casual brunch, not a frantic night-long search for his hospitalized wife. Erin, my God, I'm so sorry, he said, his voice a smooth baritone of concern. He kissed her sweaty forehead. My phone died. I was in a marathon negotiation with the Tokyo investors. The time difference is a killer. I just got your messages when I plugged it in. I came as fast as I could. It was a perfect lie. So perfect, so practiced, that Erin, fogged by medication and fear, almost believed him. She wanted to believe him. Preeclampsia, Damien, she whispered, her tongue thick. They said it's severe. We might have to deliver early. He cooed, taking her hand. But his grip was loose. His eyes darted to the heart monitor, to the IV drip, and then inevitably to the phone in his own hand. Whatever Dr. Harding says, whatever the best doctors say, they'll do it. I'll pay for it. Don't you worry about a thing. He kissed her again. I have to make a few calls. The board is in a panic about this Tokyo deal. I'll be right in the hallway. I love you. He slipped out, leaving the scent of expensive coffee and Baccarat Rouge 540 in his wake. Erin lay there, her heart as heavy and swollen as her ankles. The lie was too easy. The performance too smooth. The smell of that perfume was the final betrayal. It wasn't his. It was on his clothes. Her hand drifted to her own phone on the bedside table. She needed a distraction, anything to escape the beeping machines and the cold dread in her stomach. She opened Instagram. A mistake. Her feed was a curated stream of perfection she could no longer relate to. But then she swiped to the Explore page, which fed her a steady diet of celebrity gossip. And there it was. A post from TMZ. The headline, Tech Titan Damien Sterling's late-night negotiation at Club Mogador. Who's the mystery? Brunette. The photo was grainy, taken from across the street. But it was unmistakable. There was Damien not in a boardroom, but in the velvet-roped entrance of one of the city's most exclusive and debauched clubs. It was time-stamped 2:15 a.m. He wasn't alone. He was in a heated argument, or perhaps a passionate embrace. It was hard to tell with a woman. A very famous woman. Serafina Volt. A singer-turned-actress-turned-lifestyle influencer. Serafina was the kind of celebrity who was famous simply for being famous. She was all high cheekbones, surgically enhanced lips, and a reputation for collecting powerful married men. Erin's vision tunneled. She scrolled to the next photo in the carousel. This one was clearer. Damien's hand was on Serafina's waist. Her head was thrown back in laughter, and on his wrist, glinting under the paparazzi flash, was the watch Erin had given him for their 3rd anniversary, a Patek Philippe. Calatrava rose gold with the engraving "My Anchor, My Love, E." The digital dagger was twisted by a text message that buzzed through at that exact moment. It was from an old frenemy from the art world, a woman named Chloe. Text: Erin, darling, I saw you missed the charity benefit last night. Probably for the best. Your husband made enough of a scene for the both of you. This was taken at 1 a.m. at Carbone, just before they went to Mogador. I am so sorry. Thought you should... No. The attached photo was crystal clear. It wasn't a paparazzi shot. It was taken from a nearby table. Damien and Serafina Volt were not arguing. They were kissing. Deeply. His hand was tangled in her long, dark hair. A bottle of Petrus wine, a $5,000 indulgence, sat on the table between them. This was taken at 100 a.m. At 100 a.m., Erin was alone in a triage room, terrified she was losing her baby. The heart monitor beside her bed began to shriek its steady rhythm, accelerating into a frantic, panicked tattoo. Beep, 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 beep! A nurse burst in. Mrs. Sterling. Erin. What's wrong? Erin just held up the phone, her hand shaking. He. Your pressure is spiking. 80, 120. I need Dr. Harding in here now. Code blue. Potential seizure. Erin didn't hear them. The world was narrowing to a single point of white-hot pain. The last thing she saw before she lost consciousness was Damien a few feet away in the hallway, laughing into his phone. When Erin awoke, the world was fuzzy and tasted of ash. Dr. Harding was standing over her, her face a mask of exhaustion and anger. Erin, can you hear me? The baby, Erin croaked. The baby is stable. You are not. You had a seizure, Erin. An eclamptic seizure. We stabilized you, but your blood pressure is still dangerously high. We have to get this baby out. Today. Okay, Erin whispered. Today. Your husband. I've had him barred from the floor. Dr. Harding said, her voice dropping to a low growl. My nurse told me what she saw on that phone. That man is a hazard to your health. I am for medical purposes classifying him as a non-essential visitor. Do you understand, Thor? A fierce, protective, primal surge of energy cut through Erin's drug-addled haze. It was the first time in months she had felt anything other than fear. It was pure, unadulterated rage. Yes, Erin said, her voice stronger. Thank you. Keep him out. Good. Now I need you to rest. The OR is being prepped. We'll move for a C-section in 2 hours. As soon as the doctor left, Erin picked up her phone. She had 2 tasks. First, she posted a single photo to her own private Instagram. It was a picture of her hand IVs, snaking from her skin, her massive diamond engagement ring looking obscene and foreign. The caption diagnosed with severe preeclampsia in hospital. Please pray for our baby. She didn't tag Damien. She didn't have to. The frenemy Chloe would see it. The whole high society world would see it. They would see her post, see the TMZ and Page 6 articles, look at the timestamps and do the math. The social execution would be swift. Second, She made a call. Not to her mother, not to her friends, but to the one person she knew could handle this. Harriet Sloane, please. Harriet was the most feared divorce attorney in New York, a woman who didn't just win cases, she annihilated opponents. This is Harriet. Harriet, it's Erin Sterling. I'm at New York Presbyterian Maternity Ward Room 812. I need you to draw up divorce papers. There was a pause. Erin, are you all right? I thought you weren't due for another month. I'm in premature labor. Preeclampsia brought on by, let's call it extreme spousal misconduct. He's been having an affair, Harriet, with Serafina Volt. A sharp intake of breath on the other end. Oh, Erin. That is a new level of scum. Is there proof? TMZ page 6 and a personal photo from Chloe at Carbone. He was with her last night while I was being admitted. I had a seizure about an hour ago. He caused it. Harriet's voice was pure steel. The emotional distress, the abandonment. Oh, we have him. We have him cold. Erin, you are in a high-risk medical situation. Do you want to do this now? I want him served. Erin said, a single hot tear rolling down her cheek. I want him served before they put me under. I will not be married to him when my son is born. I want full emergency custody. I want the penthouse. I want him out. I'll have a messenger there in 60 minutes, Harriet said. Do not sign anything else. Do not talk to him. I am on my way to a judge right now to file an emergency order. You just focus on you and that baby. We'll handle the monster. An hour later, a furious pounding rattled Erin's door. It wasn't a nurse. Erin, what the hell is this? Let me in. The nurses won't let me in. Your Instagram. What are you doing? You're making me look like a fool. It was Damien. He was bellowing in the hallway. His mask of charm completely gone, revealing the raging narcissist beneath. Erin pressed the call button for the nurse. Please, she whispered, get him away. Just then, a small, unassuming man in a bike helmet slipped past the nurse's station and knocked gently. Mrs. Sterling. Yes. Courier for you. From Sloane Legal. The man handed her a thick sheaf of papers. Erin clicked a pen, her hand trembling. Damien saw the exchange from the hallway, and his voice changed from rage to ice. Erin, don't you dare. Don't you dare do this. You are hormonal. You're sick. You don't know what you're doing. This is my child, too. It's a little late for that, Erin said, her voice just loud enough to carry. She propped the papers on the rolling hospital tray, the same one that held her cup of ice chips. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Motion for emergency sole custody. Motion for exclusive use of marital residence. She signed the last page with a flourish, the ink slick and dark. Nurse, she called, her voice clear. Please give these to my husband. He's the one yelling in the hallway. The nurse, a kind woman named Jessica, who had been coaching Erin's breathing, took the papers with a grim smile. She walked to the door, opened it just a crack, and slid the papers out. You've been served, Mr. Sterling. A horrifying sound, a strangled animalistic roar of pure fury echoed down the hall. Then silence. Erin lay back against the pillows, her body shaking, but her mind, for the first time in a year, was perfectly terrifyingly clear. Okay, she said to the empty room. Now, let's go have this baby. The C-section was a surreal, detached experience. Erin felt the pulling and tugging behind the sterile blue curtain, But she felt no pain. Her mind was 1,000,000 miles away, replaying the look on Damien's face as he saw the legal papers. "Okay, Erin. A little more pressure," Dr. Harding said. "And? Here he is." There was a beat of silence, and then a thin, furious wail that cut through the silence of the OR. "He's beautiful, Erin," the nurse said, her voice thick. "He's a fighter." They cleaned him and wrapped him a tiny red screaming bundle. He weighed only 4 pounds, 2 ounces. They placed him on Erin's chest for a brief second before he had to be rushed to the NICU. "Leo," Erin whispered, kissing his downy head. "Your name is Leo." Leo the lion. For his strength. For the strength he had just given her. As Erin was wheeled into the recovery room, the outside world came flooding back in. Her phone, which a nurse had dutifully plugged in, was exploding. The story wasn't just on TMZ. It was on CNN, Forbes, the New York Times. Sterling Innovations, CEO in hospital showdown. Pregnant wife serves divorce papers from hospital bed amid Serafina Volt affair. Damien Sterling locked out of maternity ward as wife has emergency C-section. Erin's single Instagram post, contrasted with the paparazzi shots of Damien and Serafina, had painted a picture so damning, so viscerally awful that public opinion had turned overnight. Damien wasn't just a philanderer. He was a monster. Sterling Innovations stock had opened 22% down. The board of directors, a notoriously conservative group of old money titans, was in an emergency session. Damien's family man image, which he had cultivated so carefully, was the bedrock of their brand's trust and integrity platform. He hadn't just cheated on his wife. He had violated his fiduciary duty. Meanwhile, Serafina Volt's PR team was in a tailspin. They'd tried to release a statement. Serafina and Damien have a deep and meaningful connection. Their relationship is not a fling. She is heartbroken to learn of Mrs. Sterling's medical complications and wishes her a speedy recovery. The internet's response was brutal. The comments on Serafina's last Instagram's post, a candid shot of her meditating, were a waterfall of snake emojis and vitriol. Wishing her a speedy recovery now. You weren't so worried at 2 a.m. at Mogador. Homewrecker. He left his pregnant wife for this. Erin was in her private recovery room, a bleak beige box. She was alone. Her son was in a plastic box in the NICU. Her husband was... where a text came through. It was Damien. Text: "You have ruined me. You did this. You will pay for this, Erin. You and that lawyer bitch. You think you're getting the penthouse. You're getting nothing. I will fight you until you have nothing left." A new kind of terror, cold and sharp, replaced the rage. What had she done? She was a new mother, postpartum weak, and she had just declared war on one of the most powerful and ruthless men in the world. A soft knock came at the door. It was Harriet Sloane, her shark-like attorney, carrying a briefcase that looked like it was made of solid steel. "Don't you dare respond to that text," Harriet said, her voice like ice cubes rattling in a glass. "I've already seen the stock tickers. He's panicking." "Good." "He'll ruin me," Erin whispered, tears welling. "No, he won't," Harriet said, pulling a chair up to the hospital bed. "Because he's an arrogant fool, and he's made the one mistake I've been waiting for." "The affair?" "No," Harriet said, a predatory smile touching her lips. "He's lying about the Tokyo deal. I've just had a very interesting chat with my forensic accountant. There is no Tokyo deal, Erin. There's just a $50 million wire transfer to a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands. a shell corporation owned by one S, Vault. Erin stared. He was paying her. No, darling, Harriet said, opening her briefcase. He wasn't paying her. He was partnering with her. This wasn't just an affair. This was a conspiracy. The NICU became Erin's new world. The rest of the hospital with its gossip and its drama faded away. Her world shrank to the 2-3-foot plastic bassinet that held her son. She sat for hours, her hand through the porthole, her finger held tight by Leo's tiny, perfect fist. His rhythmic breathing, aided by a small tube, was the only thing that mattered. Damien, true to his word, had launched a full-scale legal assault. He filed a countermotion claiming Erin was mentally unstable and hormonally compromised. He painted her as a hysterical woman who had trapped him with a pregnancy. He demanded a paternity test. He claimed he was the victim of a calculated social media smear campaign. Simultaneously, Erin's credit cards were declined. The Amex Black, the Visa. Even her private checking account, which he'd always kept topped up, was frozen. She was a billionaire's wife, a new mother, and she couldn't afford the vending machine snacks in the NICU waiting room. "He's cut me off," Erin told Harriet in a panicked whisper from a hospital payphone, the only line she trusted wouldn't be bugged. "Standard issue narcissist playbook." Harriet's voice crackled back. "Starve them out. Don't worry. I've already filed a motion for emergency spousal support and legal fees. A judge is going to laugh at his instability claim, especially since we have Dr. Harding's sworn affidavit that his actions caused the eclamptic seizure. But the money, Harriet, he can't just take it all. Can he?" "Oh, Erin," Harriet sighed. "That's where the news gets worse. And then much, much better." Harriet explained. The $50 million transfer to Serafina Volt's shell company, Volt Productions, LLC, was just the tip of the iceberg. "My forensic accountant, Mr. Chen, has been a busy boy. Damien hasn't been working late for months. He's been systematically liquidating assets. He's been siphoning money from Sterling Innovations, millions at a time, into a series of offshore accounts. He's embezzling." Erin's mind reeled. From his own company. He was Erin, Harriet said gravely. He was planning to run. Run with her. With her. He was planning to bankrupt the company, pin the blame on a bad market, and leave the board, the shareholders, and you holding the bag. He was going to disappear to a non-extradition country with Serafina and about $200 million in stolen funds. The affair wasn't a mistake. It was an exit plan. He was never going to St. Bart's with you, Erin. He was going to St. Bart's with her to finalize the new accounts. The betrayal was so vast, so complete, that Erin felt the air leave her lungs. It wasn't just love that had been fake. It was everything. The Q4 projections, the late nights, the Tokyo deal. It was all a meticulous criminal charade. He wanted me in the hospital, Erin said, the realization dawning. The stress. He was trying to make me sick, so I'd be out of the way, so I wouldn't ask questions. His timing was just a little off, Harriet said, her voice pure acid. He didn't count on you finding out, or on TMZ being so efficient. What do we do? Erin whispered, looking at her tiny son. The divorce is now the secondary fight, Erin. This is a federal crime. We have two options. We can use this as leverage to get the biggest divorce settlement in New York history. He'll give you everything to keep you quiet. Or, Harriet said, we give it to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. We give them the wire transfers, the offshore account numbers, everything. We give them Damien Sterling and Serafina Volt on a silver platter. What? What happens to me? To Leo? You become a cooperating witness. You get full immunity, not that you need it. The government will unfreeze your original premarital assets, and the board of Sterling Innovations, desperate to distance themselves from Damien, will make a generous settlement with you to avoid a shareholder lawsuit. You'll be set for life, you and Leo. And Damien, he goes to prison for a very, very long time. So does she. Erin looked through the glass at Leo. He was so small, so fragile. He had been born into a war zone. He deserved peace. He deserved a life free of a monster like Damien. Do it, Erin said, her voice shaking, but resolute. Burn them. Burn them both to the ground. The next 8 weeks were a war fought on 2 fronts. The first was a brutal media campaign waged by Damien. The second was silent, a meticulous legal trap being laid in the quiet, carpeted rooms of the Carlisle Hotel. Erin and Leo's secure, undisclosed location was a 3-bedroom suite registered to Harriet's law firm. It was opulent, but it was a prison. Zev, a quiet, broad-shouldered man with watchful eyes who headed her new security detail, was a constant, silent presence. Erin's days were a surreal blend of new motherhood and criminal investigation. She would be breastfeeding Leo his tiny, starfish hand splayed on her chest, while meeting with 2 somber, dark-suited attorneys from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Mrs. Sterling. Alani. She corrected her voice, still hoarse from her hospital stay. My name is Erin Alani now. Ms. Alani, the attorney, a no-nonsense woman named Chen, corrected herself. Ms. Chen's accounting is the skeleton. We need you to provide the flesh. We need to paint a picture of his state of mind. And so Erin recounted the last 6 months, the sudden Tokyo trips, the hushed angry phone calls, the specific cloying scent of Baccarat Rouge 540, the way he'd dismiss her concerns about her health, the casual cutting remarks about her hormonal state. She provided a full detailed calendar of every night he was working late, which, when cross-referenced with Mr. Chen's data, matched perfectly with the dates of the largest wire transfers. She was not just a wronged wife. She was the prosecution's star witness, the human key to unlocking the motive. The feds weren't just building a case for embezzlement. They were building a case for a cold, calculated conspiratorial exit with her and their newborn son as acceptable collateral damage. Meanwhile, Damien, completely oblivious to the federal storm clouds gathering, was fighting his own war, a war of public opinion. Cut off from Erin, he had unleashed his PR team. The Page 6 and TMZ articles which had once been his downfall were now his chosen weapons. Damien Sterling's pain. I just want to see my son. Friends fear for Erin Sterling. She's not herself prone to hysteria. A husband's heartbreak. Damien Sterling's team claims severe postpartum paranoia. He was painting her as unstable, a hysterical hormonal woman who had been manipulated by a vulture attorney. He was the victim. He was the loving father, locked out by a vindictive, unbalanced gold digger. The master stroke of his hubris, however, was his decision to control the narrative with Serafina Volt. They were in this together, after all. Their love, they decided, was the real story. In an act of breathtaking arrogance, they booked a sit-down interview on America's Morning, the nation's highest-rated, softest-focus morning talk show. Erin, you have to see this, Harriet said, walking into the suite. She didn't look angry. She looked electric. It's time. Harriet clicked on the large flat-screen TV. Erin, holding a sleeping Leo to her chest, sat down. There they were, Damien and Serafina, seated on a plush beige couch bathed in soft, forgiving light. Damien was in a cashmere sweater, looking like a bereaved college professor. Serafina was in a cream-colored silk blouse, her dark hair artfully tousled. A single perfect tear was tracing a path down her cheek. "It's just been so hard," Serafina whispered, her voice trembling. "People don't understand our connection. It wasn't. It's a deep, spiritual bond. Damien was in a toxic, loveless marriage for years. He's a kind, gentle soul," she continued, placing a hand on his. "He's been portrayed as a monster, but he is the victim here." The host, a woman known for her sympathetic interviews, turned to Damien. "Damien, you have a son. A newborn son you allegedly have not been allowed to see." Damien looked directly into the camera, his eyes practicing a sincerity Erin once mistook for love. "Cynthia, I just want to co-parent. My son is everything to me. Erin, if you're watching, please, I'm begging you. This has gone too far. Stop listening to the lawyers. Let me see my son. Let's heal." Erin felt the bile rise in her throat. He's a fool," Harriet finished, her eyes gleaming. "And he just confirmed on live national television that he is at Studio 7A in Midtown. He's not in a car. He's not on a plane. He's sitting on a beige couch, waiting." As if on cue, Harriet's phone buzzed. She looked at it. A single text. "We are green." "Turn up the volume, Erin," Harriet said. On screen, Damien was laughing at a softball question about their future. "We're just taking it one day at a time." Suddenly, the studio's fire exit doors, visible just behind Serafina's head, burst open. The studio audience, which had been silent, gasped. Damien's smile froze. The host looked confused. "What's going on? Is this—" Two men in dark suits, followed by two more, in tactical vests marked FBI, walked directly onto the set. They did not run. They walked with a heavy, deliberate pace that was far more terrifying. "Mr. Damien Sterling," the lead agent said, his voice booming in the suddenly silent studio. Damien's face, broadcast in high definition to 12 million people, was a mask of confusion and cracking arrogance. "Yes, we're in the middle of a segment." The agent pulled a folded paper from his jacket. "You are under arrest for 12 counts of federal wire fraud securities, fraud embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit money laundering." Serafina let out a small, strangled shriek. Damien stood up, his practiced calm returning. "There has been a serious mistake. Your lawyer will be informed," the agent said, his voice devoid of all emotion. He pulled out a pair of handcuffs. "Please turn around and place your hands behind your back." The click-click of the handcuffs was the only sound in the studio. It was as loud as a gunshot. Damalian's face wasn't angry. It was for the first time blank. The performer had no more lines. The camera, in a moment of sheer predatory instinct, zoomed in on his cuffed hands, then on his stunned, ashen face. "Miss Serafina Volt," the second agent said, turning to the actress who seemed to have shrunk into the couch. "You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit money laundering and failure to report a felony. Please stand up." The spiritual bond was broken. Serafina began to sob a high, thin, animalistic wail of pure terror. "I didn't do anything. He made me. He told me the money was clean. He's a liar." A liar. The camera didn't flinch. The live feed cut to the stunned, pale face of the host, then to a chaotic, "We are experiencing technical difficulties" screen. But it was too late. The entire world had just watched the reckoning. In the Carlisle suite, Erin was shaking. The baby, disturbed by her trembling, started to fuss. She held him tighter, burying her face in his soft hair, and for the first time since that night in the hospital, she wept. But they were not tears of fear. They were tears of pure, unadulterated release. Harriet Sloane just watched the screen, a small, grim, deeply satisfied smile on her face. And scene. The world Erin returned to was not the one she had left. When she and Leo were finally quietly discharged from New York Presbyterian, they did not go to the glass fortress at 157. The penthouse, with its sweeping, indifferent views, had become a monument to a life that was not only over, but had been a lie from its very inception. The click of the high-security locks, the whisper of the private elevator, the scent of Baccarat Rouge 540, that seemed to have permeated the very marble, it was all a mausoleum. Instead, Harriet Sloane, now acting as not just an attorney, but as Erin's de facto field marshal, had secured a garden-level apartment in a pre-war, absurdly private building on Gramercy Park. It was registered to a shell corporation, and the only key belonged to Harriet. The apartment was warm, filled with dark wood, and had a small, walled-in garden, where the only sounds were the cooing of pigeons and the distant wail of city sirens. It was a bunker, but a beautiful one. For the first 3 months of Leo's life, Erin's world shrank to the 4 walls of that apartment. Her days were a relentless, milky-scented cycle of feeding, changing, and rocking a fragile 4-pound infant who still seemed more concept than child. She was a ghost haunting her own life, a mother in name, a witness in legal status, and a prisoner in practice. The victory that the world saw the hospital bed divorce, the ultimate betrayal, the billion-dollar takedown, felt in the 300 a.m. silence like ash. The newspapers delivered by Harriet's silent paralegal were a grotesque spectacle. Sterling in shackles, CEO denied bail, a profound flight risk. Volt sings Serafina's shocking testimony to save herself. Where is Erin, the billion-dollar widow, vanishes. Erin, battling the steep, crashing waves of postpartum hormones and the deep, visceral trauma of what had been done to her, felt no triumph. She just felt numb. "He's been indicted on 12 federal counts," Harriet said, her voice crisp over the phone. Erin was balancing the receiver on her shoulder, trying to coax Leo to take a bottle. Wire fraud securities, fraud embezzlement conspiracy. The list is poetic. The Southern District is not playing. They are going to bury him. And her, Erin asked, her voice flat. There was a pause. Harriet, a woman who lived for the kill, sounded almost disgusted. Serafina Volt. She took a plea deal, Erin, a spectacular one. She rolled over on him so fast she left skid marks. She's not going to prison. No, Harriet spat. She agreed to testify in open court. She gave them everything. Private recordings, his burner phones, the passwords to the Cayman accounts. She painted herself as a victim, a poor, love-struck fool, coerced by a mesmerizing and abusive sociopath. In exchange for her full, tear-soaked cooperation, she's getting 2 years probation, a $10 million forfeiture, which she'll probably earn back on a tell-all book and community service. She'll likely spend it raising awareness about coercive romantic relationships at a spa in Malibu. Erin's hand tightened on the bottle. So she wins. She doesn't get 25 years in federal prison, Harriet corrected. That is not winning. She's a pariah. Her career is over. Her name is a punchline. But Damien is the main event. The trial was set for 6 months later. Erin had no intention of attending. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her. She would not let him infect the courtroom with his presence watching her, analyzing her. Her testimony was provided via a sealed affidavit, along with Dr. Harding's medical records and a brutal minute-by-minute timeline of the night she'd had her seizure. Erin was by then physically recovering. Leo was gaining weight. He'd developed a small hiccuping laugh that sounded like a squeaky toy. But mentally, Erin was still in that hospital bed. Harriet, sensing this, made a calculated move. I'm going to the sentencing, Erin. And so are you. No, I can't. I won't. You're not going for him. You're going for you. You are not a victim hiding in an apartment. You are a survivor. You are the woman who brought him down. The world needs to see you not as the poor, pregnant wife, but as the one who won. You will sit in that courtroom, you will listen to the judge read the verdict, and you will close this chapter. And then you will never ever have to see his face again. So on a cold Tuesday in March, Erin Sterling for the last time put on a suit of armor. It was not a Chanel suit or a Gucci dress. It was a simple, severe, dark charcoal wool dress by the row. Her hair was pulled back in a tight, unadorned chignon. Her only jewelry was a pair of simple pearl earrings. She wore no makeup. She was not there to be a society wife. She was there as a witness. She entered the Daniel Patrick Moynihan courthouse, flanked by Harriet and 2 private security guards, a silent grey shark cutting through a sea of shouting paparazzi. Erin, how do you feel? Erin, are you asking for the max? Erin, Damien says he loves you. She didn't flinch. She stared straight ahead, her face a mask of glacial calm. The courtroom was a zoo. Damien, in a baggy, ill-fitting suit, his expensive tailoring long gone, was seated at the defendant's table. He looked smaller. The charisma had been hollowed out, leaving behind a sallow, twitchy shell. He had lost weight, and his hair was thinning. He saw her. His eyes, those same eyes that had promised her the world, widened. And for a second he smiled a desperate, pathetic flash of his old charm. See, we are still connected, you and me. Erin met his gaze. She held it for a full, agonizing 3 seconds. And she felt nothing. Not hatred, not love, not pity. Just a vast, cold emptiness. She broke eye contact, turned her head, and looked at the judge. She never looked at him again. Damien Sterling was found guilty, on all counts. The judge, a woman named Fiona Kelleher, read her sentencing statement with a quiet fury. Mr. Sterling, I have been on this bench for 20 years. I have seen men who stole because they were hungry men who killed in a fit of passion, and men who were simply born into a cycle of violence. You are none of those. You are a man who had everything, a thriving business, the respect of your peers, a wife who was, by all accounts, a devoted and brilliant partner, and a child on the way. You did not just steal money. You stole livelihoods. You stole pensions. You stole trust. And in a final act of grotesque narcissistic cruelty, you abandoned your wife, who was in a life-threatening medical crisis, to continue your criminal conspiracy. The fact that your actions caused that medical crisis is a moral stain that this court unfortunately cannot adjudicate. What it can adjudicate is the $200 million you laundered. It is the judgment of this court that you be sentenced to 25 years in a federal penitentiary." A low, keening wail came from Damien. It was the sound of a man who had just realized the game was in fact over. Erin stood up. She did not look back. She walked out of the courtroom, past the frantic reporters, and into the sunlight. As the armored SUV pulled away, a single hot tear rolled down her cheek. It was not a tear of sadness. It was a tear of release. The last bit of poison finally leaving her system. The penthouse at 157 was sold. The Sotheby's auction was the talk of New York. The Patek Philippe, watch the one from the TMZ photo, sold for triple its value to an anonymous buyer in Dubai. The art collection, the wine, the furniture, it was all liquidated. Erin now legally. Erin. Alani, her mother's maiden name, made 2 announcements. First, a check for $50 million was delivered to the pension fund of Sterling Innovations employees, making them whole. Second, an anonymous $30 million donation was made to New York Presbyterian, endowing a new research wing for preeclampsia and high-risk pregnancies to be named the Leo Alani Center for Maternal Fetal Medicine. The rest, a staggering sum, was placed into a trust. Erin and Leo disappeared. The society pages mourned her loss, then moved on. Napa Valley was not a hiding place. It was a choice. Erin had chosen earth, not glass. She had chosen quiet, not noise. Her home was a sprawling single-story ranch house made of reclaimed wood and pale, sun-warmed stone. It sat on 20 acres of wild, unkempt land, overlooking a lavender field and a small, struggling vineyard she had no intention of ever making profitable. Leo, now a sturdy, babbling toddler, was not a sterling heir. He was a little boy with a smudge of dirt on his nose, a passionate interest in worms, and his mother's bright, curious eyes. The letters from FCIO Otisville had started arriving 3 months ago. They were a case study in narcissistic collapse. The first letter. Rage, Erin. You didn't even have the courage to face me. You set me up. You and that lawyer bitch. You turned Serafina against me. You think this is justice. This is a joke. You'll pay for this. I will get out. I will appeal. I will see you in court. You will not keep my son from me. It was postmarked Return to Sender by Harriet's office before Erin ever saw it, the second letter. Bargaining. This one, Harriet forwarded. My dearest Erin, I am a broken man. This place, it's not for people like me. I have time to think. I see it all clearly now. I was sick. The pressure, the company. It wasn't me. And Serafina. She was a poison, a disease. She manipulated me. I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second. Please, Erin. Think of Leo. A boy needs his father. Just write a letter to the parole board. Tell them I'm not a monster. Tell them I was under undue stress. We can fix this. I can fix this. I love you. I've always loved you. Erin read this one, her hand steady. She felt a faint, clinical pity. He was still performing, still looking for the right combination of words to unlock the cage. She put it in a file. The third letter, desperation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am on my knees. I dream about the hospital. I dream about the phone calls I missed. I don't know who that man was. I want to die. Please just send me a picture of the boy. That's all I ask. Just one picture. Please, Erin. Don't be so cruel. She handed the file to her head of security, an ex-Mossad agent named Zev. Ensure this federal prison's mail screening is as good as they say it is, and that he never, ever receives a reply. Damien Sterling was a ghost, and she was done being haunted. Today was a good day. It was the grand opening of the Leo Gallery. It was a small, light-filled space in downtown St. Helena. It was not a billion-dollar vanity project. It was a small working gallery. Its mission was simple: to find and fund emerging female artists. The first exhibition was a roaring success. A young, brilliant painter from Ohio, a woman named Sarah Jenkins, had sold her entire collection in the first hour. Erin was in the back office, signing a check for the artist, when her phone buzzed. It was Harriet. "Well, I hear you're the new toast of wine country," Harriet said, her voice crackling with amusement. Erin laughed, a sound that was full and easy now. "We sold some paintings. A woman's life is going to change. It feels good. It feels real." "I'm proud of you, Erin," Harriet said, her voice softening. "You did it. You built a real life." "We did it, Harriet. Thank you." "Oh, I'm not just calling to congratulate you. I'm calling with a little epilogue." "Oh, Serafina Volt." Erin paused. "I heard she was launching a spiritual crypto coin." "She was," Harriet said, a predator's smile in her voice. "It was called a Volt coin, promising cosmic returns and chakra-based blockchain. It was, of course, a multi-million-dollar rug pull, a classic Ponzi scheme. She was trying to flee the country on a private jet to Dubai when the U.S. Marshals picked her up at Teterboro." Erin's eyes widened. "No." "Oh, yes. She was still on federal probation. Remember? From our little case, fleeing the country is a major violation. Committing a new 9-figure fraud is, well, it's just on brand, as she would say. So, what happens? She just got sentenced. A judge in Los Angeles, who apparently has zero tolerance for New Age scams, threw the book at her. No more probation. No more tell-all books. Serafina Volt is going to serve 3 years at the Federal Correctional Institution in Victorville. Full time. Erin was silent for a moment, processing. The universe, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor. The karma had finally been delivered. "Well," Erin said slowly, walking out of the office and into the bustling gallery. "I guess you can't build a life on bad foundations." "Poetic, Erin. Poetic. Now go sell some art. I'll send you my bill." Harriet hung up. Erin slipped her phone into her pocket. She looked around the room. It was filled with laughter, with people arguing passionately about brushstrokes and light. Her nanny was in the corner, holding Leo. He saw his mother, and his face lit up in a grin that was pure, unfiltered sunlight. He reached for her. Erin walked over and took him. He was heavy, solid, and real in her arms. He smelled like baby powder and sunshine. He'd stumbled while she was on the phone and had a small, dusty smudge on his nose. He was a sturdy, happy boy, and he'd pushed himself right back up. She kissed his forehead. The ghosts of the past, the smell of Baccarat Rouge 540, the beeping of the heart monitor, the icy rage of a man in a prison cell, were gone. They weren't just quiet. They were gone. This was her anchor. This was her love. "Come on, Leo," she whispered, holding him tight. "Let's go home." And that is the story of Erin's revenge. It wasn't just about catching a cheating husband. It was about a woman finding her power when she was at her most vulnerable. It's a story of survival, hard karma, and the incredible strength of a mother. What started in a hospital bed ended in the fall of an empire. What did you think of Damien's downfall? Was Serafina's karma? Hard enough. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this story of drama and justice, please show your support by hitting that like button. Share this video with someone who needs a good story, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a single dramatic story. Thank you for listening.